So Joe Lewis has obviously been indicted in America for insider trading. Now, to break this down, Tottenham are owned by ENIC, and that is a company. The company ENIC is run by a trust of which we understood were two individuals who led that trust, one of which essentially the main guy was Joe Lewis. Now, what is very interesting just from a soccer perspective about this is that what's come out in the response from Spurs and from the PR company that looks after ENIC and THL, Tottenham Hotspur Limited, is that Joe Lewis is no longer in control of that trust. They're saying that he stepped down in October 2022. Now, we didn't know this, failure of journalism for all of us, but we didn't know that that was the case. So what the club are saying is purely from a Tottenham Hotspur perspective, whatever happens to Joe Lewis, whether he's guilty or not, and we should say he denies all the charges and he plans to contest them very, very strongly in court if it goes that far. They're saying it doesn't impact Spurs, it won't impact the running of the club. There is a question, however, for the Premier League to answer because, of course, some of these things that he's alleged to have done, and they are giving tips to some of his employees and lending them money in some cases to go and invest in companies that he had a heads up on that they were going to, their stock was going to rise because they were going places, allegedly. Those things happened while he was owner of Tottenham Hotspur. So whether the Premier League decide through their owners and directors test retrospectively to go through that and decide there's been some sort of financial infringement, obviously he has to be found guilty in the US first. There's a hell of a process to come with that. You suspect he'll be fighting that in court for some time. This will run and run. I suspect the Premier League have a track record of not really pursuing this kind of thing. I mean, if it turns out that he's guilty and many insider trading charges, then they may well have an investigation that they're going to have to open. But at the moment, it's a long way from that.
Wasn't there a story the other day that Joe Lewis had told Daniel Levy that he needed to sell Harry Kane before he went on a free transfer?
They just make it up.
Okay, well, that was just, I'm just saying, was there any truth to that? Because if Joe Lewis is telling Daniel Levy, then clearly he's still the man in charge.
I can't say where that story came from, but I do know where it came from, and it didn't come from someone connected to Tottenham. There is a belief among other major European clubs that Daniel Levy is under pressure internally to sell. Now, Casey, what is interesting about that, I think, is that if that is true and Joe Lewis is putting Daniel Levy under pressure to sell Kane, it might be we want the money in the bank because we're trying to sell the whole club. Tottenham's been available for sale. Everybody's known it for years, really.
Well, supposedly Abramovich went to Tottenham first in his helicopter and went, oh, well, what about that place?
Well, and Todd Bowley was quite keen on Tottenham. You know, he made an offer for Tottenham before he ended up getting involved with Chelsea, right? So, and that was 4 years ago, I think. So Tottenham have been available for sale for a while. And I just wonder, and I'm speculating and I don't know this, but I wonder with what's happening with Joe Lewis, and now we found out that he's stepped back from his direct involvement, direct ownership, with the pressure he may be putting under Daniel Levy to sell Harry Kane, whether they are starting to think actually the sale is getting a bit closer. There's always talk about Qatari money being quite close to Premier League clubs and particularly Tottenham, whether they may be getting to a position where in the next 6-12 months that club is sold.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN+.